Hello and welcome to Webhack Wednesday. I'm Martin Beery.
I'm Martin Kern.
And today we are going to be talking about
Lewis.
We've
talked about Lewis before.
Loads.
We love Lewis. It's awesome.
Language understanding intelligence service.
Yes, one of the many cognitive services. Yeah. We did an episode on Lewis in season 2, series 2.
Yep.
We're going to revisit it today and look at some of the more advanced features and some of the new stuff.
Yep.
In the context of a company we've been working with called Gigseekr.
Gigseekr. Yep.
So Gigseekr are a company that deal with live music discovery.
Okay.
So if you're wanting to go and see a rock band,
like Bananarama,
if you want to see Bananarama in Northampton on Saturday, Gigseekr's your place to go.
Are they really playing in Northampton on Saturday?
I don't know.
No, I thought you were. I was like, oh my god, yes.
Well, actually, look,
that's why I said Bananarama.
Well,
I seen it on the screen.
I just thought you loved Bananarama.
No.
Okay. So we've worked with Gigseekr to produce a bot using the Microsoft Bot Framework. Okay. I think we've talked about this before. Yep. I'm not sure. If not, we should do.
Yeah.
And they've used Lewis quite extensively, and they've done a lot of cool stuff with Lewis. And what we've done is taken what they've done, simplified it a bit, and used it as a way to talk about Lewis more generally.
Right. Okay.
But before we do that, let's just dive into the Gigseekr bot a little bit and just see what it does. So I'm on Facebook Messenger here. The thing you should never do, show Facebook live on a demo, but it's going to be fine. Okay, so I'm going to search for Gigseekr. There they are. And I'm just going to start the conversation like you would do by saying hi. It's going to know who I am because I've already connected to Gigseekr before. How can I be of service? That's very friendly, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, do you like Pearl Jam?
Is that a... No, I prefer raspberry.
It's very good. That's very good.
I thought so.
You're here all week.
Exactly, yeah. Try the veal. No, Pearl Jam, they're fine.
Good 90s grunge
bands.
Okay.
Not really, like, if I'm honest. Not really. Like, Pearl Jam, like, slip, like...
Well, just for the sake of this.
Yeah, I love Pearl Jam.
Yeah, okay, right. So tell me about...
They did, like, a cover of
UK.
like, 60s thing about a girl dying in a car.
Did they? Probably. They're a grunge band. They do lots of morbid things.
No, it was really good. It was really good. But I loved that. I love that particular song of Pearl Jam. I loved it. And then I discovered that it was actually from, like, the 50s. And there was a 50s version of it. And it kind of... I just lost my love for Pearl Jam in that one instance.
Well, my girlfriend really loves Pearl Jam, which is why I've chosen Pearl Jam UK as the thing. So there's a really good cover band, tribute band called Pearl Jam UK, who are excellent. If you like Pearl Jam, go and check them out.
Which I don't, so I won't.
But for the sake of this, you're going to pretend that you do, and you're going to be really excited about this. So I've said, tell me about Pearl Jam UK, and it said, okay, I found Pearl Jam UK, and it's given me a little description there of the band. So that's cool. It's recognised the band, which... if you think there's probably about 90,000 different artists that Gigseekr are affiliated with or have information about, that's quite cool. It's differentiated between Pearl Jam and Pearl Jam UK. Yep. So I can say something like, show me their events. So using natural language here to interact with the bot. It's going to go off. It knows now I'm talking about Pearl Jam UK, and it's going to go and show me a list of their events. Here's the first few. So they're doing a tour at the moment. They're playing in a few different places, and you can go on and you can say, I live near Birmingham, so that's the one that I'll be going to on the 17th of November. I'll see you there, possibly.
Yeah, you won't. Okay.
No, okay. So you can do some other things. So I'm just going to do a restart here, just to start the conversation again. I live in Worcester, and the local music place in Worcester is a place called Mars Bar. Not the chocolate.
Right.
It's spelled different. So you can say something like, tell me about Mars Bar.
Oh, double R.
Yeah. Now, again, in this case, I'm looking for a venue rather than an artist. Now, what's cool here is it's actually worked out Mars Bar as a venue. Now, if you think about it, like there's a bar, I think we said this last time, there's a bar in Reading called the Purple Turtle.
Yeah.
Which could easily be a band or something else. It's very hard to distinguish if you didn't know it.
Not the sort of band I'd like. I don't think I'd like the Purple Turtle.
I'm not sure if you'd like the bar either, to be honest. But let's not go there. So it's saying this, situated in the heart of Worcester city centre, the Mars Bar is a venue of live music 7 nights a week, catering for every genre. So I can say, show me the events. Oops. And again, it's going to go off, and now knows I'm talking about a venue. It's going to show me what's on at the Mars Bar. And this bot will support all sorts of things. Like, I want to see a rock band in Birmingham on Thursday, that kind of stuff. So this is just a flavour of some of the things. I wanted to show you this to kind of ground the demo of how this all works with Lewis.
Yep.
So that's the bot. Let's have a look at how this is all hangs together. So this is all done through Lewis. Now I've got basically a simplified, cut down version of the Lewis model. This isn't the same model that Gigseekr are actually using. Their one is much more advanced because they've built this a lot.
Okay.
But this is a simple version. We've got Gigseekr Simple here. I'm going to just talk through some of the stuff that's in here. So first thing is, if you've not looked at Lewis for a while, the UI is completely different now to what it was when we talked about it before in season 2. It's a much richer UI. It works across all browsers.
Do you know they updated that UI when I was with a customer?
Yeah.
We've been working for 4 days on a hack on a bot.
Yeah.
And on Thursday, we were going to demo it Thursday afternoon, and they changed the UI that morning.
Yeah.
And it meant that I couldn't publish the thing, and we didn't know how it worked.
Yeah, because
So
it's quite different.
it does exactly the same thing,
Yeah.
but it looks a little bit different. There's different things
Yeah.
in different places, different menu items and things like that. It was the most frustrating 2 hours of my career. It was like, I've got to present this, and it all works, but
you don't know how to get it
Yeah.
working. Yeah.
Oh,
So we've got some stats. It's a much nicer UI. Like if you've used Lewis before, have a little look. It looks at all the entities and all the
I've not switched to
intents
the right screen.
and how they break down the different entities and how they're being used and all that kind of stuff. So it's very good. The docs are brilliant now. So if you look at docs, you've got an API docs, how to use docs. If you go to how to use into help docs, there's some really good stuff that just explains some of the concepts. So if you're not sure what an entity is, you can go in here and you can get a really good breakdown of all the different types of entities.
Oh
how
gosh!
they work. So
Even 2 months ago,
Yeah.
they wouldn't explain what a hierarchical entity
Exactly,
was.
yeah. And so all this stuff's in here. Utterances, what's that? Features, what's that? We'll come to features in a second. So the documentation's much, much better now than what it was.
Okay.
Let's just go back a few steps. So let's start at the top. So with Gigseekr, they have several intents. An intent, as we know before, is basically a thing you want to do.
Yep.
So they support 2 things: an entity search, which is searching for an artist, a venue, or an event.
Yep.
Or an event search, which is like show me events in Birmingham on Tuesday or whatever it might be. So they've got these 2 intents and they map into their back-end systems. I've also got in here a load of other intents from something called a utilities pre-built domain. We'll come to that later, but that's what those are there for. Gigseekr have lots of different entities, so things that you can have conversations about. So we had a conversation about Pearl Jam UK, which were an artist.
Yep.
I could look for an artist type, i.e. rock band, solo, singer, acoustic, whatever it might be. We have event types, so residencies, gig nights, club nights, open mics, that sort of stuff. Genres, which is a genre of music. Location, which is a geographical location.
I love the way you say genre.
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 So
It's like video.
Yeah.
I've got another
Video.
one. I love the way you say video. I love this way you say now genre. Genre.
Is
Genre.
That, I don't know.
Genre. Inventory is the other
What
one.
about sandwich? Should I say sandwich weirdly?
Sandwich.
I've been told I say sandwich a bit weirdly.
You do say it a little bit.
Yeah.
Video, sandwich, genre, and.
I think you say them weirdly.
I
say
say things weirdly as well, but not those ones. I say them right. Inventory. You say inventory.
Inventory.
Maybe not. I can't remember.
Fine.
Yeah, I
Just
just
carry on.
genre.
So we've got ticket and venue as well. So there's a lot of stuff. The point is there's lots of things that you can talk to this bot about. And now one of the challenges they had, especially with artist and venue, is disambiguating between those 2 things, because there's like 90,000 artists. There's God knows how many venues as well, and the names can often be similar. Purple Turtle's a great example of that. That could be a band, that could be a venue. It's quite easy. So this is where this is where features come into it. Now features, we kind of had features before, but they've been improved. So we have 2 types of features. One is a phrase list. Now this is really good, as you can provide up to 5,000 strings.
Okay.
So this isn't necessarily words; it's a string, which are of that type. So if you think about artist, we've provided all of the artists that Gigseekr have information about as a phrase list of artists. You can see they're all in here. And then what will happen is Lewis will then use that data to learn about what makes up an artist. And we've done the same with venues as well. We've added all the venues that they have information about. And it's amazing how much that helps it differentiate between the 2. That's all we've done to be able to train for artists and train for venues. So it's basically said, these are all of the artists that we know about, and we've said that the phrase list is called artist, which maps it to the entity of artist.
Yep.
And we've done exactly the same with venue as well. These are all the venues that Gigseekr have information about. There's literally thousands of them in here. I don't know exactly how many. And that's how it knows what a venue name is, and it does work.
And you're saying, so for unseen venues which are not in your phrase list, it will still be able to guess
you should do,
more accurately than you'd expect to say between, well, that's an artist I've never seen before and a venue I've never seen before. Well, that's a venue, that's an artist.
Yeah, you should be able to guess them, yeah. So that's what phrases. Phrases are a training tool to help Lewis understand the words that are assigned to an entity.
Yeah. So, but you don't have. It doesn't have to be all of the
No, it's not. It's not like a drop-down list. It's a think of them as seed items. The more you can have, the better, of course.
I think one of the ways it trains is that, if you've got. You're obviously training on other elements as well. When you're training in tense, you will say, okay, in this sentence, that part thing is an artist.
Yeah.
So it is looking not just the type of question, but also the words that go around it, the positioning and all that sort of stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
To figure it out. We actually have a research paper on actually how it works.
Cool. More depth. Okay. Well, we should overlay that on graphics.
I will.
Just around about here somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mean you got to do it again because it went on screen?
Just there.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Okay.
We'll have a graphic there.
Just there.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll make it come out of my hand.
Okay. Brilliant. Go there. So another thing we've got is we found that we had a lot of the stuff that Gigseekr needs to do is around location. So I want to go and see a gig in Worcester this weekend. I want to go to who's playing in Birmingham, that sort of thing. And it's not just Midlands based; it supports the rest of the country. But I like to keep it local. Now we do have Lewis does have what's called a pre-built entity for geography. And now pre-built entities are basically entities that Microsoft have already trained around certain things. And this geography one is supposed to recognise cities, towns, postcodes, places of interest, that kind of stuff. It doesn't work that great in the UK. So it only really recognises the big cities in the UK, which is no good for Gigseekr because it needs to support all of the ones. So we built our own entity called location, and we trained it using a phrase list for location, and we added the top 1,000 place names in the UK by population to that. And again, that worked great. So that it now picks up place names very well. And you can see some of them are quite sort of like the least. I don't know where Bromley is, but
Bromley's where my nan comes from. Actually,
there you go. Is it quite a big place, or?
Yeah, it was just it's like a suburb of London.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Some of these are quite tiny places. Some of these are even villages.
Yeah.
So they're all in there, and that works well. So phrase lists really good for training on entities, especially where you've got entities that overlap a little bit and can be confused for each other. So and we've done that with genre, we've done that with artist type and a few other things as well. There are the other thing we've got is a thing called a pattern feature. So Gigseekr haven't actually used this, but it's in here just as a demonstration. This is basically using regex patterns to pick up things and assign them to entities. So imagine if you've bought a ticket to a gig and you've got a ticket reference number, and you want to find more information about that ticket reference number.
Looking for like 16-digit long.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a company called We Got Tickets. They sell a lot of tickets for kind of local small venues. They have a very specific reference, and you can just add basically a regex with a regex pattern, and it will pick up that and assign it to a ticket number. So that's really great for if you're dealing with ticket numbers or barcode numbers or things that are in a very specific format.
Yeah,
it's really great for figuring out what those entities are. So the whole features section is all about kind of helping Lewis train for specific types of entities and learn about different entities.
Data.
Yeah. So pre-built domains. This is a new thing. So this is basically a domain of entities and intents that Microsoft have pre-trained for you. And there's a bunch of them in here. So camera, calendar, communication, entertainment, a whole load of them. I've added to this one called utilities, which is basically, I don't want to remove it, but it's basically a set of things like thank you, go back, start again, those kind of
really common ones.
Yeah, really common. Every bot should probably have this thing in there to support those kind of commands. And that's why you see when we go up to intents, that's why you see we've got all these different intents. So it'll understand that you want to go back or ask for help or show next or show preview. So it has paging and all that kind of stuff. It also has no, it doesn't have any entities in there, but some of them do have entities in there as well as intents. And so to finish up, the final thing I wanted to show you was the test and train. So whenever you've done anything with Lewis, you have to retrain the model. And again, this has been massively improved here. So we can train the application. That just basically does the same thing it did before, but you can do a lot more around testing now as well. So you can, once it's trained, you can wait for it to be trained. Okay, so now we've trained it, we can actually do test utterances. So when are Pearl Jam UK playing? And it's actually going to give me the result, give me a lot of data now about kind of how it's breaking that down. So that's figured out that Pearl Jam UK are an artist, and it's putting that as an event search, and it's giving me, it's actually not that sure about that particular one, so I might want to do some training on that.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing you can do is batch training. So you can actually have a predefined set of utterances, like a big batch of them that you can import and train as, and test it as one go, which is really good if you've got a very large model and you want to kind of have consistent testing approach rather than just rely on somebody hammering in these utterances to the console there. So it's come a long way, Lewis has, and some of these features are newer than others, and it will continue to evolve.
Yeah.
But you can now build some pretty good sort of high-scale applications using this, not just for bots, but for web applications and mobile applications as well.
Okay. Well, okay, that's all from us this week. We'll see you next week for another Webpack Wednesday.